Do you journal? And do you journal about your health and your well-being? Your why is so important. It propels you to take action. We have 50 trillion cells in our body, give or take. Your brain has a significant impact on every single one of those cells. All of your choices and how you handle situations and circumstances can actually change your genetic makeup for the good or for the bad. Most of the time, it's what we have done over the course of our lives that cause disease in the body and cause this breakdown. It's not necessarily passed down generation to generation. I mean, it is, but you have control over it. The food that you eat, the thoughts that you think, your sleep, your stress levels, all of these things really do affect you.
You're listening to the Visibly Fit Podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome to the Visibly Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. Hope you're doing amazing today. Hey, I have to ask you, do you journal? And do you journal about your health and your well-being? A lot of times people journal and they kind of do some brain dumps in the morning or whatever God's put on their heart, and all that's really important. I highly suggest that you continue to do that. But I'm curious about, do you journal about your health? Because when you journal about your health, it kind of gives you some insight to maybe why you made the choices you did in that day or choices that you didn't make in that day, maybe based on some emotional just moments that you're having or just some circumstances or situations that are going on in your life. And it helps you process. It really does. And so I want to encourage you to journal. And one of the things that I encourage my patients to journal about is to really keep their why in front of them. Like, why do you deserve to be healthy and well? Or why do you have this desire to be healthy and well in the first place? And a lot of times, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, but your why is so important. It propels you to take action. Your why is one of those things that if you don't keep it in front of you and keep it alive, if you will, actions kind of fizzle and fade. Okay. You don't go through the actions as I don't know, with as much gusto. Okay. That why has to be so deeply rooted that you're like, oh my goodness, if I don't take action, then my why isn't big enough. Okay. So you got to figure out, what is your why? What is the motivation to get you healthy and well? What drives you? Is it the fact that you want to see your children get married and have kids, or you want to see your great-grandchildren, or you want to get on the floor and play with those grandchildren, or you want to go and run a marathon, or you just want to no longer have aches and pains when you go up and down the stairs? Whatever it is, it has to be a big, deep-rooted why. But you need to journal it and you need to write it out. And that why might change from time to time, but it needs to be such a deep-rooted why that it gets you off the couch and into motion. Okay. So I want you to maybe start asking yourself these questions when you're journaling. Number one, what is your why? If you don't already have that established, make sure you put that into words and maybe print it out where you can see it every day. Also, ask yourself, did I schedule me into my day-to-day? Because you are one of your most important appointments. If you don't schedule yourself, it's not going to happen. Trust me, we're all the same. You've got to schedule yourself, because the day will start to take over your moments that you wanted to do something if you're not scheduled in, and that you put those healthy boundaries around that schedule. Also, whenever you're journaling, ask yourself, how is my wellness attitude and how is it affecting others today? How is it? How's your attitude? Are you grumpy, or are you in more of a positive, lighthearted spirit? Do you have, life-giving words to speak over yourself and others today? Or are you just grumbling because maybe you're listening to too much news and it's making you feel a little negative? Turn off the news. But what I'm saying is journal it out, because you do matter, and how you show up in this world matters to other people, not just yourself. Also ask yourself, what can I learn new today about your health? Hopefully today will be one of those things that you are learning something new, and you can write this in your journal. So we have 50 trillion cells in our body, give or take, okay? And your brain has a significant impact on every single one of those cells, every single one of them. Your brain has an impact, mainly by the levels and the types of chemicals that the brain dumps into the body during and after multiple things, like eating, exercising, when you stress, cortisol is being released, right? When you're sleeping, chemicals from the brain are being released. When you pray and when you meditate, when you have certain emotions, based on the environment that you're in. If you are outside in the beautiful, in a forest, doing some forest bathing, taking a walk, right? Man, you're going to get some serious brain dump of dopamine and some serotonin, and man, it's going to be awesome. But if you're in an environment of chaos, you're probably going to, your brain's going to give off more cortisol and that kind of thing, right? So your brain affects every cell in your body. Just by living, your brain is dumping chemicals into the body. Now, all of your choices and how you handle situations and circumstances can actually change your genetic makeup for the good or for the bad. Now, we've talked about this here on this podcast before, but I'm going to talk about it again. But your genetic coding can change. It can actually change on a daily basis, and you have the power to change the coding. Yeah, you do. Basically, you can turn on and off certain gene receptors based on the way in which you live your life and how you think. Yes, even how you think. That's a big one. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. But having control over your genetic cellular expression is known as epigenetics. I've talked about epigenetics here before, but you're probably hearing more and more of this term epigenetics. So what is it? Epi means above. So it's above genetics. And I wanted to do a show on this today because, again, epigenetics keeps coming up over and over. And science tells us a lot, right? But God is over it all. He is like above epigenetics. God's above it all. And so I just think about Proverbs 4:23. Above all things, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The heart and the mind are connected. I mean, yes, our whole body is connected, but chemically speaking, our mind and our heart is connected. So I also think about when Paul wrote to the Philippians, when he was in prison in Rome, he says, let me get the verse. He says, finally, brothers and sisters, you probably had this one memorized, I should too. But anyway, he says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable or praiseworthy, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. Paul had a great revelation, as he said later in the same letter to the Philippians, that he had learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. And that secret was that he and that we can do all things through Christ who gives us strength, right? And so I just think about that and all the torment that Paul went through, from being shipwrecked to imprisoned to beaten to just all the things. And yet he had this revelation of knowing that when we start to understand that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, and that his presence and walking with him is the secret of being content, but to focus on the things that are pure and lovely and right and noble and all of those things, he was onto something. He was onto something because it can change your genetic code. Yes, the way in which you think, it really, really can. How many times has your mind got the best of you? I mean, I know I have to get my mind in check often. I mean, it happens, right? We're so human. But literally, our mind can get the best of us. Maybe you think, like, I don't know, oh no, my mom or dad, they only lived to be in their 60s or 70s. So I'm sure that genetically, that's going to be the same for me. Or, I don't know, so-and-so in my family had Alzheimer's, or so-and-so in my family had cancer, or this or that. Then genetically, that's probably going to be for me too. Well, don't believe the lies. Yes, God knows your days. He knows the number, but you could truly go to 100 or longer, but you got to do your part, right? But here's what I want you to know is that, and you may not know this, that 95% of your life is controlled by your subconscious, according to neuroscience. So consciously, yeah, we think a lot of things, or we're focused on certain things. But what about, subconsciously? How do you really think about your health? How do you really think about yourself as a person? It's one of the reasons that when I work with my patients, we really tap into belief systems. We tap into their childhood, maybe some traumas and dramas. But when we do this, it's hopefully we can kind of pinpoint their first disconnect that may have propelled them into this subconscious kind of space of being more of a victim and playing out that in life rather than being victorious as God intended us to live, right? Into more of a victorious way of thinking. The brain really has to unravel, and then we've got to rewire the mind with that positive and true thoughts and actions, because what you believe really plays a huge role in how you show up in the world. And here's an interesting thing, is that 1/3 of healings are just placebo effect. 1/3 of healings. In other words, these people thought themselves into being healed. Of course, we know God's hand is upon people, right? Like we pray his healing hand is upon them, and that is a big part of these miraculous healings. But so much of it has to do with what's in between their ears. So I want you to consider really the power of the mind and how it can truly change your genetic coding. All right? You can be a change agent. You can be a change agent in your family by breaking cycles of dis-ease and unharmonious living by taking good care of yourself. You can break off cycles of trauma that are indeed genetically passed down. Seriously. Have you ever seen a parent that's like highly anxious only to see that their kids are as well? Or how about kind of just down and out depressed parents, and you see that kind of in the kids as well? Or maybe they're full of fear. They've got that victim mentality. It happens. It can be passed down. So if you change the way you take care of yourself, your child will have a better chance early on because of the healthy genetic coding that you pass down. Now, let me just tell you, this goes for men and women because both play a role in procreation, right? So that genetic coding comes from mom and dad. So men, you are not dismissed from this conversation, but women especially, since we do carry the child for 9 months, the choices that you make during this time are just critical, especially the first 3 months of gestation. That's seriously critical. But not just the time while you're pregnant, but also the months and years prior, right? Like if you're eating the standard American diet of fast food and processed foods full of sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, and you're gulping down Dr. Peppers, Mountain Dews, energy drinks, or all those highly caffeinated drinks, it will suppress your immune system. It will keep your body from producing best healthy cells for an optimal healthy baby. I mean, I know most people aren't thinking too much about their future children when they're 18 or 21 years of age. I don't think I was. But man, if we did, just wow, what a difference it would make in the health of our society, right? It really would. It would make such a big difference to think that, okay, this body isn't just for me. First of all, we know that this body is what houses the Holy Spirit, right? It's a gift. It's a gift from our Creator, from the Lord. But what if we realize that this body just isn't for us to glorify God in? It's to, I mean, yes, it is. It's also to procreate and create healthy healthy generations. All right. And so this is like it's a call on our lives. Again, this is a gift. And so we are to pass it down generation to generation, healthy, whole, mind, body, spirit, emotions. Now, we're all human. We all have stuff going on, but we have to do the work to change the genetic coding, to this epigenetic situation, that we want to understand epigenetics, first of all, that we have the power to change the coding. But if we're in a place where, wow, we were brought up in a home that was more of a victim kind of mindset, doom and gloom, fear-based, whatever it is, we have to do the work. We have to unravel. We have to go and reprogram our mind with the Word of God, with His truth, but also with other information that's going to be positive and uplifting, so that we can actually change the way that our cells replicate. Our genetic coding can be changed, and our cells at the cellular level can change for the long haul of our life. So we think about, okay, what is our life going to look like if we stay in this particular state of being? And if we're in kind of that down and out, doom and gloom state of being, our cells, again, I've talked about this before, but they operate at a frequency, right? They vibrate at a frequency. And those low vibrational frequency emotions or states don't allow the cells to be in their healthiest, best self, so that they can replicate into healthy new cells. They're going to replicate into what they already are. And we want a higher vibration of cellular replication. So how do we do that? We have to change the way we think. We have to change our actions. We have to change what we are putting in our body, not just thoughts, but food. Okay. Food is a big piece of this equation. So again, if you are just consuming the standard American diet, and if you haven't jumped on board with taking your health seriously, I can't stress it enough that you are in more control of a body being in dis-ease or not. Okay. You can have a healthy body if you take good care of it. You really can. I mean, I understand that there are birth defects, but that's only like 3 to 5% of the genetic coding that is not so great that's happened at birth or even before the child's born. But most of the time, it's what we have done over the course of our lives that cause disease in the body and cause this breakdown. It's not necessarily passed down generation to generation. I mean, it is, but you have control over it, is what I'm trying to say, because of how you think, how you choose to decompress and mitigate and get rid of stress. I mean, we can't get rid of it, but you know what I mean? How to breathe through it, how to walk around the block when you're having a stressful moment. Just having the right tools in your toolbox to handle those kinds of things so that it doesn't affect you at the cellular level. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about. The food that you eat, the thoughts that you think, your sleep, your stress levels. All of these things really do affect you. Now, if you are not of childbearing age, I'm still talking to you, actually, because that's me. I'm not of childbearing age, and maybe that's you if you're listening. But I want to be so bold as to say that we can't give birth, if you will, quote unquote birth, to our best creative tasks if we don't consider epigenetics. Because you won't be able to catch the vision. You're going to have a foggy brain. You're going to be listless. You're going to have a bad attitude. You're not going to have joy. You won't be able to contribute to society fully if you don't change the way in which your genes are being expressed. You just won't be able to. So I want you to really consider, how are you showing up right now? Do you think that your health is just a manifestation of what's happened to your grandma or your mom or whatever? Maybe. But you can change it. You can change it. I know. Again, think of that placebo. Think of how 1/3 of healings occur, and it's the placebo effect, because that's the power of thinking healthy and well. That's the power of elevating your frequency, if you will, your vibrational tone and frequency, so your cells respond differently, and you act differently. You change your actions. You start moving your body. You're not just sitting on the couch, wallowing in your bad news or whatever the case may be. You start to see the good in things. You start to have gratitude. All of this starts to change your gene, expression. It just does. And it's been scientifically proven, and more people are coming out talking about epigenetics. And, it might be like, yeah, that just really seems too good to be true. I mean, honestly, we have this genetic DNA, we have this DNA, and yes, we do. And that's kind of the blueprint, but the coding is different for everybody. And a lot of times we don't realize that we can turn on and off this coding, and this can happen on a daily basis. So how are you showing up? Are you choosing to count it all as joy? Are you choosing to intentionally turn off the news and maybe find something that makes you laugh? Laughter is good medicine. Are you choosing to shut down social media and things that stress you out? Are you choosing to shut it down and walk away from it, literally, maybe getting outside to take a walk, to change what chemicals are being dumped into your body, to change your genetic expression? You can do it. Are you choosing to change your environment? Your environment matters, right? What is it? Cleanliness is next to godliness. When things are clean, when things are organized, you can think better. And plus, you don't have all the exposure to dust and mites and mold and all the things that come with all the filth that people might be living in. So cleaning is good. My husband and I, we just did our windows the other day, and I was cleaning the downstairs basement windows. And I thought, oh my goodness, how long has it been since we've cleaned these windows? I think it's just been since last year. But man, the filth and grime that can build up if you don't stay on top of it. It's important to clean. And that means that we clean everything, because it starts to show up, right? It starts to show up if we don't. I had to get in there. It took some time. I had to, use some elbow grease to get that dirt out of there. But man, it sure felt good when it was all nice and clean. And when we are in a clean environment, it helps to give us space for more creative thinking too, right? If you've got a lot of piles here and there, I've got a couple myself, I'm going to admit, but if you have tons of piles everywhere that are keeping you from thinking clearly and keeping your creativity just stifled, take the time to clear the clutter and get rid of the piles, okay? Because that creativity is something that can birth some, some space for whatever God wants you to birth, right? But we have to make that space. We really do. But it'll change your epigenetics when you are choosing to count it all as joy, choosing to clean up the dirty windowsills or the piles that you have, or choosing to not sit on the couch and instead get up and take a walk. It changes the expression of your genes. And so if you're listening to this live, as we're going into the fall and soon to be winter seasons, and we have, we're starting to be in a time where it's going to be darker longer, and a lot of people tend to get more colds because they're not experiencing as much, getting as much vitamin D, and they're stressed out, and, all the things. I want you to think about, how are you going to go about this next 3 months, this last quarter of the year? You can choose not to be in a high stress, ramming and jamming kind of place. You can choose to flow as God would have you flow. Because as you flow, I promise, more creativity is unleashed, and that stress isn't going to cause chemical brain dumps of all kinds of cortisol and all kinds of stress-inducing chemicals that are going to keep you in an unhealthy state. So again, it's looking at the holistic, whole big picture, but you can change your epigenetics. You can. You have more control than you realize. So again, I know I've talked about this before, but more and more people are talking about it. And so I wanted to do another episode just to remind you that you have more power over your health than you realize. So eat healthy, choose well, choose life-giving foods, choose life-giving words, choose life-giving actions, and choose joy. I promise you will see the difference. You will see the difference, especially even in this 3 months. Just do a little kind of, test. Just kind of watch how this 3 months unfolds during the holidays, right? Because that's when most people are stressed out. Watch how your 3 months is different than maybe last year at this time, when you choose not to stress, when you choose to release whatever stress might be going on around you, when you choose to eat healthy, when you choose to take a walk instead of sitting on the couch watching your favorite TV show, when you choose to have a good attitude. Just watch how these 3 months change compared to how they were last year for you. Seriously, it'd be kind of cool for you to do a little, side by side to see your health and how you feel. And maybe, I would imagine, you'll probably, if you've got unhealthy weight on your body that you're carrying, you will probably release unhealthy weight as well. And this is a time when most people gain weight. So I'm telling you, you have the power. So I'm putting it in your hands as I'm giving you this reminder. You have the power to change your health. So do it. Take note. And if you're looking for someone to walk with you hand in hand, I'd be more than happy to do that. Maybe you have questions. Maybe you're like, you know what, Wendie, I struggle in this area or that, and I've, tried this or that, but nothing's actually worked. Well, sometimes it doesn't work because you don't have the right mindset in that moment, but sometimes it doesn't work because you don't have the right accountability, or maybe just the right program for you. So if that's the case, go to getvisiblyfit.com. Let's work together. If you just have a question and you want to email me, that's fine too. We can talk, and I'd be happy to guide you and get you on whatever path would be best for you. But I believe that Get Visibly Fit would be a great one as we talk about all areas of health and living, not just food and exercise. It's so much more. So again, go to getvisiblyfit.com. If you just want to email me with questions, I'm here for you as well. Wendie at wendiepett.com. But be blessed, take initiative, and take your health seriously. You have the power. All right. Take care. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a visibly fit day.